Before a single regular season snap has been taken in 2026, before the Cleveland Browns have played one official game, before Shedeur Sanders has lined up under center in a live NFL contest wearing the number that was always meant to be his, Nike is already in crisis mode. Not a slow burn crisis. Not a manageable inventory challenge. A full-scale, emergency-level, bring-in outside partner scramble that one of the most powerful sportswear companies on the planet has rarely, if ever, had to execute before a season even begins. The Shedeur Sanders number 2 Cleveland Browns jersey is selling at a pace that has broken every projection Nike had on the books. Shelves are empty, online queues are backed up, and right now, Nike is doing something extraordinary, reaching out to partner manufacturers and external collaborators just to keep up with demand. The season hasn't started, and Nike is already panicking. To understand why this moment is so seismic, you have to go back to last season. Because what's happening right now with the number 2 jersey didn't come out of nowhere, it was telegraphed months ago, and somehow, the industry still wasn't ready. In the 2025 NFL season, Shedeur Sanders wore number 12. Not because it was his choice. Not because it carried any personal significance. He wore it because veteran wide receiver DeAndre Carter already had number 2, and Shedeur respected the process, respected the locker room, and chose to wait. He wore a borrowed number. And even wearing a number that wasn't truly his, Shedeur Sanders finished as the highest-selling jersey in the NFL among every player from the entire 2025 draft class. That single fact tells the entire story of where we are right now. The 144th overall pick, a fifth-round selection that shocked the football world on draft night, was outselling every quarterback taken ahead of him and every skill position player drafted in rounds 1 through 4, all while wearing a number that wasn't even his identity. This is the first time in NFL history that a fifth-round pick has led jersey sales among an entire draft class. That statement alone should have rewritten every supply projection Nike had attached to the Shedeur Sanders account. The market had already decided. The fans had already voted with their wallets. And when DeAndre Carter was released on March 30, 2026, and number 2 finally became available, an entire fan base that had been patiently holding their breath collectively exhaled, and immediately pulled out their credit cards. Shedeur didn't call a press conference. He didn't release a long statement. He didn't do a sit-down interview. He posted on X. Just the number. Just the numeral 2. Simple. Clean. Iconic. And the internet did the rest. Within hours, jersey pages were flooded. Retail systems that weren't built to absorb that volume of simultaneous traffic were straining under the weight of it. Fans who had been waiting specifically for this moment, who had deliberately held off buying a jersey because they wanted the real number, rushed the marketplace all at once. It wasn't a gradual rollout. It wasn't a measured ramp-up in demand. It was a wall. A single concentrated moment of consumer hunger hitting the market simultaneously, and Nike's supply chain, built around projections of steady growth and gradual increases in production, was simply nowhere near equipped to handle it. The number 2 Shedeur Sanders jersey sold through available supply at a rate that forced Nike into emergency territory. The online queues backed up. Physical retail locations ran dry. And Nike, one of the most sophisticated, well-resourced sportswear operations in the world, had to pick up the phone and call outside partners for help. That doesn't happen often. That is an admission. An acknowledgement that the internal machine, for all its sophistication, got caught completely off guard by a single social media post from a 22-year-old quarterback who hasn't played a regular season game yet in 2026. The speed and scale of that consumer response is something the sports merchandise industry has rarely seen in a preseason window, and it raises legitimate questions about whether Nike's forecasting models are built for the era of social media-driven athlete influence. Here's what Nike, and frankly much of the mainstream sports media, failed to fully account for. Number 2 is not just a jersey digit for Shedeur Sanders. It is his identity. This number has been with him since his high school days at Trinity Christian in Texas. It followed him to Jackson State, where he played under his legendary father Deion Sanders and built a national following. It went with him to Colorado, where 2 record-breaking seasons turned a struggling program into must-watch television every single Saturday. Colorado didn't just celebrate what Shedeur did there, they retired his jersey before he ever played an NFL snap. That is an almost unheard-of honor for a player moving on to the professional level, and it signals the kind of cultural weight this individual carries. Running parallel to all of that football was a personal brand called Too Legendary, an apparel line that Shedeur built deliberately and methodically long before the NFL was even a concrete reality for him. The number 2 is woven into that brand. It's in the DNA of it. When you see 2 legendary, you think of number 2. When you think of number 2 on a Browns jersey, you think of Shedeur. When Nike puts that jersey into production, they aren't manufacturing athletic apparel. They are producing a piece of a cultural statement, a wearable artifact of a story that millions of people have been following for years. And those millions of people aren't interested in waiting. They want it now. The number 2 jersey isn't merchandise. It's a movement. And Nike priced it and projected it like it was merchandise. What makes Nike's situation even harder to defend is that this is not the first time Shedeur Sanders has put them in scramble mode. His signature shoes went viral earlier, creating a wave of consumer attention so intense that the industry was caught completely flat-footed. That shoe moment generated enormous profit for Nike and proved, with hard data, exactly how quickly this young man's commercial influence can overwhelm a marketplace. That should have been the blueprint. That should have been the proof of concept that rewrote every projection and every supply model Nike had attached to the Shedeur Sanders account. It wasn't. And here we are again, with a company that should have been better prepared, doing emergency outreach to external manufacturers because the lesson from the shoe moment was not applied aggressively enough to the jersey rollout. Shedeur Sanders has now twice demonstrated that his commercial power operates on a different speed than traditional athlete partnerships account for. The machine moves faster than the machine is built to run. And until Nike fundamentally recalibrates how it approaches anything with his name attached, they will keep finding themselves in reactive mode when they should be in proactive mode. That is not a small operational failure. For a company of Nike's size and market intelligence, getting caught off guard twice by the same athlete is a systemic problem, not a logistical coincidence. While we're talking about all of this, let's not lose sight of what Shedeur Sanders has already done on the actual football field, because the jersey demand isn't built on hype alone. It's built on a foundation of real, documented, undeniable achievement. He came into the league as pick 144. He wore a number that wasn't his. He went through the noise of prank calls during the draft process, people trying to make him feel lesser than, trying to shake his confidence before his NFL career had even officially begun. He endured that publicly. He kept moving. His first season featured genuine growing pains, 10 interceptions gave the critics the ammunition they had been waiting for, and a 3-4 record as a starter on a 5-7 team wasn't the splashy debut some expected. And still, through all of that, he outsold every player in his draft class and earned a Pro Bowl selection. Shedeur Sanders became the first Cleveland Browns quarterback to make the Pro Bowl since Derek Anderson in 2007. That is not a footnote. That is a historic achievement for a franchise that has endured more than its share of quarterback heartbreak. And he did it as a rookie, as a 5th-round pick, wearing a borrowed number. His first touchdown pass, nobody can take that from him. His Pro Bowl selection, nobody can take that from him. His draft position, nobody can take that from him. And now, his number is back. Here is the number that should be keeping Nike supply chain teams up at night. Right now, in the preseason, before a single 2026 regular season game has kicked off, they are already in emergency mode. They are already overwhelmed. They are already bringing in outside manufacturing partners to try and close the gap between supply and demand. That is the preseason baseline. That is what the floor looks like. And the floor is already on fire. What happens when the season actually starts? What happens the first time Shedeur Sanders walks out of that tunnel onto a live NFL field wearing number 2? What happens if he delivers a performance in Week 1 that reminds the entire country why Colorado fans used to hold their breath every time he dropped back to pass? What happens if, and this is not a wild scenario, this is a plausible projection for a player who already made the Pro Bowl as a rookie, Shedeur Sanders takes a clear step forward in year 2 and starts silencing every remaining critic who questioned the Cleveland front office for taking him in round 5. The jersey demand that exists right now, at this preseason fever pitch, would look conservative by comparison. Nike is already underwater before the opening whistle. The scale of what they may be managing by Week 8 of the 2026 NFL season is something the industry should be genuinely preparing for, not scrambling to react to. Step back and look at the full canvas here, because what's happening with Shedeur Sanders and this jersey situation is about more than football. It's about a generational talent who was systematically underestimated at every single turn, and who has responded to every dismissal by letting the market, the one evaluator you can't argue with, prove his worth in real time. He was underestimated in the draft room. He was underestimated in his jersey assignment. He was underestimated in the Pro Bowl conversation. And now the jersey demand is so overwhelming that one of the largest corporations in sports is scrambling to keep pace. The fans who bought number 12 jerseys last year are already asking about exchange programs. The fans who held off specifically for number 2 are flooding the market simultaneously. The Browns faithful who wanted to see this organization truly commit to their quarterback are now watching that commitment manifest on merchandise shelves across the country. Number 2 is back on a Browns jersey. Sanders is on the back. And before a single 2026 snap, the market has already rendered its verdict. Nike is already in scramble mode. Outside manufacturers are already being brought in. Supply chains are already strained. And the regular season hasn't started yet. When Shedeur Sanders steps under center for the first time in 2026 wearing number 2 in a live NFL game, if he performs the way his trajectory suggests he's capable of performing, the demand that's overwhelming Nike right now will look modest in hindsight. The only real question left on the table is whether Nike will have learned from this preseason chaos and built enough supply infrastructure to handle what's coming. Because if they thought the demand before the season was heavy, they haven't seen anything yet. Now we want to hear from you. Did you already grab the number 2 Shedeur Sanders jersey, or are you still waiting for Nike to restock? Do you think Nike completely underestimated his star power, or did this demand simply blow past every possible projection? Browns fans, does getting number 2 back feel like the organization finally making a real statement that Shedeur is the guy? And the big one, do you think Shedeur Sanders becomes a top 3 jersey seller in the entire NFL by the end of the 2026 season? Drop everything in the comments below. We read every single one. If you're new here, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a story like this one. We cover the NFL moments that matter, the stories behind the headlines, and the players the league is still figuring out how to contain.